I am so excited to welcome you not only to Jacksonville, but to the launching of the podcast called The Covenant, more specifically, the Sister Covenant. And yes, I did say sister. What is the covenant, the Sister Covenant? It is a circle of friends, my friends for 20, 30, 40 plus years, your friends, all of our friends, coming together in a safe space at a time such as this. We as women of color, we are counted on to nurture our families, our children, our significant others, our spouses, our community, our corporate boardrooms, and everything in between. But who fills our cup? I think about flying, and when we get ready to take off, what is said to us first? Put your oxygen mask on first before you can assist others. And that exactly is what the Sister Covenant is all about. A safe space to encourage, to listen, to cry a little, laugh a lot, but most important, to empower and to fill our cup.
Good morning. Great Sunday morning, and welcome to the Sister Covenant. We are in our 6th month, y'all. Woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. And we thank you. We thank you for being with us every step of the way. We have an exciting, a powerful conversation with some powerful women. We are again visiting the conversation around mental health awareness. And we at the Sister Covenant, we're going to be a part of the movement of eradicating the stigma against mental illness. As you all are aware, this month, May, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So with that being said, get ready. Get your pen, get your paper, call a girlfriend, call a friend, male, female, especially our young people. This is the Youngins Sunday. It's 5th Sunday. So if you know a young person that you think will benefit from this conversation, please text them right now. I know they don't get up this early, especially on a Sunday, but you get them up because this is going to be just for them. Before we get to that, we give you a little laundry list of things to do. So the first thing is we want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Sister Covenant Nation and purchasing that beautiful, beautiful Sister Covenant merchandise. Look at that, y'all. That is absolutely beautiful. And as I told you last podcast, as we are all getting out safely and we've had our vaccinations, I get a chance to see beautiful women all over. I've been all over the state of Florida, and now my family and I are venturing over to another part of the country, to Seattle, Washington. And I'm wearing my Sister Covenant merchandise out there to let them know that we are united as women of color. So if you have not purchased your Sister Covenant merchandise, you still can. And every purchase of $100 or more goes to our charitable giving, UNCF. So please go to our website and make your purchases today. Now, we want you to be a part of our Sister Covenant giveaway contest. So how do you do that? What you do is just simple. Share our latest Facebook stream and subscribe to the Sister Covenant on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. join the email list on our website. All you have to do is comment done on the image on the Saturday prior to the Sunday stream. It's just that simple. And you will be a part of our contest. So, who is our winner for this podcast? Drum roll, please. Oh, Walletta Ware Stanford. She's a dear friend of mine. So I will make sure, I'm sure she has all the Sister Covenant merchandise. So we will certainly get with her and see what it is she does not yet have. Now, how do you join that sister circle conversation after the podcast? Because, we don't always finish all of the rich conversation. It's simple. Just go to Facebook on your phone or your computer, search the Sister Covenant, find the groups tab, click on the group titled The Sister Circle, and click join. It is just that simple. All right. Now that all of that is out of the way, I have the pleasure of welcoming, I'm going to call her a friend. We are friends united in a club that is special. I had an opportunity earlier this week to sit down and talk with Benita Abernathy. Benita Abernathy is a mental wellness advocate, but more than that, she is a loving mom. And I want to invite you to listen to our beautiful conversation. Welcome, Benita. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk with you. And I am so very excited and blessed to have you with us here at the Sister Covenant. So, Benita, let's get started.
All right.
And my first question is, tell us about Alex.
Well, of course, any parent loves to talk about their children. And before I get into all these wonderful things about Alex, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I know you've been patient with me through this journey here, but we are finally here. And I'm just glad to be able to do my part in the movement or the fight against removing the stigma from mental illness and, really encouraging and focusing on mental wellness. So thank you very much. Alex was born October 4th, 1995. And I have to tell you, those were some of the happiest days of my life because I just adored my son. I love being a mom. I love going through, or having all of the experiences that parents do, especially moms, with their little children and seeing them transition from year to year and watching all of their changes that come with each one of those years. I mean, it was such a joy for me. And then, of course, as he got older, of course, that didn't change. But of course, me as a parent had to change kind of how I reacted to him because of his independences that came along with all of that. And I used to frequently tell him, Alex, you are just an absolutely cool kid. And, what I mean by that is that he had what I would call a universal personality. He could relate, at least what we try to instill in him is to be able to relate to, the president of the United States, all the way down to someone who needs help on the street. And, I think that he had achieved that. And even though some of that may have been learned, I think it was really, truly innate in his character. He was, witty. He was a loyal friend. He was really smart. And I'm saying all these wonderful things about my son. That's not to say that he was perfect, because he wasn't. There were times, of course, when I considered Alex to have an A brain, but he put forth a C effort. So needless to say, we got through all of that. But to me, And I think anybody would say this, just being around him, not me, just being his mom. His core was just so genuine. He was a cool kid, and then we lost him in February 4th to the day on his birthday, 2015. So that's been about, a little over 6 years ago. And needless to say, that was a very sad, very tragic, very emotional situation that we all who were close to him are still dealing with, but, getting stronger every day. And I do often wonder, if my son had still been with us, I know he would have made or would be making a significant contribution to the world. And I do often wonder exactly what he'd be doing now if he was still with us today. So, and if you don't mind, I'd love to show an image of him.
Please, thank you.
Okay. So this is Alex. He was probably this is his high school picture. So he's about almost 18 right here. And I'm trying not to get rid of the reflection. Of course, that's his running partner, our dog, Ursak, who passed away about a year ago also. And the last one here, of course, I have 1,000 of them, but this particular one is the one when we had when we moved him into school. Needless to say, he didn't have his little bed made or whatever. I just said, that's okay. It's going to be natural. So I keep, these along with a few others that kind of represent him throughout his life.
Thank you so much, Benita, for sharing those with us. I remember when I met you, and we've talked about this a couple of times at a Jack and Jill Mothers Conference 4 years ago, I think, and it had just kind of happened.
It had just, and I was in a different space then than I am today. But hopefully, 5 years from now, I'd be in a different space than I am today. So, yeah.
Well, what I most admire about you is your willingness to share, Alex, and your story. And what I got then and what I've got over the last several months that we've talked is that you and Alex had a special mom-son. I'm a boy mom. I have young men as well. And you all had a very special relationship. So tell us about that relationship and how it may have changed a little as he began adulting, as we call it.
I like that term. Yes, Alex and I, we were close. And of course, close, and I would have loved to know everything about what was going on with him on any given day. But of course, being a boy, men are not going to just volunteer and share everything with you. They're quite succinct if they share anything at all. So, my son was no different. He was pretty much the same. But what I know for sure is that, and beyond measure, beyond certainty, that our son loved us dearly, and he was our only child. Of course, our dog Ursak was part of our family as well. You get so attached to your pets, but and then when he transitioned to school, or when he was about to transition to school, he got accepted in the school of his choice, which was Babson College in Boston, Massachusetts, which is very far away and very cold. And I just made sure to say to him on multiple occasions before he left, Alex, please make sure you go to class. Because, here we have a lot of snow and we're in Nashville, Tennessee. So yes, we have snow, more ice, but as most people know, in that area of the world, you're talking, double digits in inches of snow. So that was the one thing that concerned me, is just to make sure he went up and, he got up every morning and did his due diligence and went to class. So when he went to college, of course, it was very bittersweet, because obviously, those of us who were close to him and his family here, cousins, not just beyond my husband and I, we knew we would miss him, but we knew that this was a great opportunity. I was a little concerned that it was so far away, but, thinking about myself, I was one of those women, I guess you could say, in my younger days, where, I loaded up my car and drove 600 plus miles to Texas and got a job, that kind of thing. So I had a feeling he would be okay. And it was where he wanted to go. So, it didn't go. I knew there were probably going to be some challenges there, but I didn't think it was anything that we definitely could not get through. So off he went, and then during that short period of time between the time that he started school and those last 2 holidays at the end of the year, is when we had come to know that he was having some truly emotional issues. And so, during that time is when we were just kind of, I would say, it was profound. We were hit with that. So between that time and the time that Alex left us, we were, in the process of discovery. And of course, we proceeded to do all of the things that any parent would and get on the road to wellness for him. The one thing I did say to Alex when I first learned of this is that, Alex, we will get through this. We will get through this. And I, felt that wholeheartedly, because that's the way that I live my life when I face any sort of challenges. I know I'm going to get through it, and we were definitely going to help him to get through it. And that's where we were headed. And so of course, and I can't even talk here, of course, I didn't anticipate that he would make the choice to leave us, did. And so since then, I've learned a lot. The experience, the symptoms that he was showing, we had come to loosely find out that it was due to depression. And mind you, this was something, of course, I knew about, but depression was over here somewhere. It didn't, I was not even in that realm. And of course, the results of different types of depression, as I've come to know, kind of can result in suicide, which is a word that I could not even say for years, a long, long time. So, in a sense, I've really come a long way, but I am in a place where, and even as you mentioned some years ago, want to be in a place where I can now extend my experience and help others who are going through what my husband and I were going through, and help them through this journey. So that was my focus, and that's kind of the long and short of the situation at that time.
So, Benita, I so appreciate you sharing that very personal story. And I know when we talked, and I can relate because I too have lost a child, as you know, different circumstances, but certainly a loss nonetheless. And you kind of think that's somebody else's life. That's not going to happen to me. And you said that to me.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's important to note. Because at the time after this happened, you go through so many different thought processes. I mean, you start learning about all of these things that you were so removed from before, because it wasn't anything that was supposed to happen to you. I certainly didn't think this was not supposed to happen to me. And so here's the thing. No matter what status you are in life, no matter whether you have $1 billion or whether you have two, no matter how much education that you've had, because we certainly followed the rules, went to school, graduated from pretty decent schools, got great jobs, had great careers, had the family and the whole nine. But guess what? Depression does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. This can happen to anyone. And I even think that initially, in fact, not even think, I'm just going to be real here, is when we had come to know what our son was going through. I mean, of course, the first thing we did was everything we knew we could do at the time to just get on that road to making him better. But I think initially on, and I'm speaking for myself here, definitely not anybody else in my family, but early on, I'm sure I had some a little bit of denial there. And I mean, I even, as I was working to find counseling for my son, I was trying to find counseling for myself in order to understand how best to approach and deal and go through this experience with him and go through this journey. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's important to know.
Benita, what would you say, if you could speak directly to our audience, to other moms? What advice or what would you share with them, that one important thing that you think they should really know about?
You know, it's interesting that you say that. And as I go along, continue on this journey of what's the word I'm looking for? Of healing for myself, and, you know, thinking about the things that I should have known, could have known, should have seen, that kind of thing. I would say, because I have to tell you, it's who knows how long this was going on with him, because it is a physical situation that's going on with the brain. It's not just emotional. It's physical as well. And I would love for the day to happen when you can go to the doctor, and just like he does a scan on your brain, or does or X-ray in your body, and he can pinpoint that and say, oh, this is cancer, or this is whatever the situation may be, that we can at some point, you know, get a CAT scan, do a brain scan, and pinpoint to that area that, oh, you're suffering from this type of depression, and it just be very profound. Hopefully one day we'll get there. We've done a lot of studies, but I would say, back to your question, is if you think you have any inkling or any glimpse that your child has transitioned, or there's something off in his normal routine or his behavior, or something is awry, then I would suggest that you pay attention to that, you act on it quickly. And of course, the trick to that is that you can't act too invasively, too fast, but you have to really pay attention, more attention than you probably did before. I mean, we all know our children, especially moms, and especially when they're there with you, you know, during those young years, middle years, high school years. So we pay really good attention. I mean, I would be one of those moms that if my son would go out, I would try to look at his eyes, you know what I mean? Like my mom used to do with me, but in a very strategic sort of way. So, you know, even the way he walked, I mean, I paid close attention to everything he did, said, everything. But yet there's some things that I definitely missed. And then, you know, looking back, I'm sure there were. But as I had mentioned, is, you know, you have to, how do you ascertain or distinguish between if, you know, if it's a teenage rebellion because of hormones, or if it's just totally something else. So the only thing that I can say is just pay close attention if you think there's something off about your child. And because if you think there is something off, then most likely there probably is. But, you know, don't dive in feet first. You really have to be strategic about how you approach that situation, because they will shut down and, you know, won't get any information at all. Because if they think you're delving where they don't want you to go, they definitely will shut down, because our kids are smart. So, and, you know, that's truly the advice that I can pass on. So hopefully that will be helpful to someone. But
how are you doing today as you turn the page, Benita?
I'm doing much better. I'm stronger. And it's interesting that you asked that question, because I've always been one to begin with the end in mind, meaning I know that whatever happens in my life, as I mentioned before, I know I'm going to get through it. And I can't do it alone. There is a lot of prayer, because, you know, prayer changes things. And that really helped me every single day to just thank God that even though I may not have wanted to get up that particular day, he did. He got me up. He allowed me to wake up. on this particular day. And so, I come to know that that is truly, and it's not anything you think of. It's not something you just say. It's something I knew deep down in my heart, that I am truly blessed that God has given me. And for whatever reason, he left me here. He took my son, but he left me here. And I am truly blessed to be able to see the day and be able to pass along and have opportunities like this to pass along information to others. So I've become stronger. I've worked really hard to try to stay out of the muck and mire, guilt, depression, and because I was the first few days is very hard. So I thought I was going to be gone, but I've become stronger. I try to maintain positivity in my life in every facet, and we're never finished. So I'm always striving to improve, and I just thank God for each and every day. So that's where I am.
You are a blessing. You are a beautiful woman, a gracious woman, and a loving mom. And we are blessed by your presence. And we want to check in on you every now and again, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
That is what the Sister Covenant is all about: empowering and wellness and wholeness for all of us, because we're stronger together. So we thank you for sharing your very precious Alex with us. And as moms all around this country, we're going to love on him in his memory, but we're going to love on you right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Benita. God bless you.
Have a great evening. Have a great day. And thank you.
You too.
Wow. Such a beautiful soul, such a loving mom. And I can't say enough about her allowing us to just learn more about her story, her son's beautiful memory, and shedding a light on mental illness. And what I took away from that conversation loud and clear is mental illness does not discriminate. So if you notice something, check in with those you love to make sure if it's not quite right, that you are talking and you are just loving on that person and letting them know that it's okay not to be okay. At this time, I want to welcome back to the Sister Covenant another beautiful soul, Sonia Fisher. You may remember back in January when Sonia and her handsome husband, Kevin, who was our first male on the Sister Covenant, visited with us again, talking about the powerful subject of mental illness and the stigma of mental illness, especially in the Black community as it relates to our church and our culture. And Sonia has been doing some amazing things in this space over the last several months. She is the Vice President and Chief Creative Officer of Everybody versus Stigma, the CEO to A to Z Custom Tees. Sonia, welcome back to the Sister Covenant.
Good morning. Thank you, Pat. It is an absolute honor to be here with you this morning.
It is an honor to have you back. And I know that my friend Kevin is doing well, and I want you to tell him I said hello. I know he's around there somewhere. So please tell him I say good morning. So Sonia, let's get started, especially for those that may have not had the opportunity to see the segment, the very powerful segment that you and Kevin was on back in January. You've been busy. But before we get to Everybody versus Stigma, you guys established the Dominique Fisher Memorial Foundation some 10 years ago. Tell us about Dominique, and more importantly, tell us about your relationship as a mom and how you entered into his life.
Oh my gosh. So yes, in say 2005, Kevin and I, we We were dating, seeing each other. Kevin, from his previous marriage, had 2 boys. I had 2 middle-aged school children. We were seeing each other. Things were going great. He was working in another city, commuting back home every weekend. Again, things were going fine. At that time, Dominique was wrapping up high school, entering college. Dominique was a bright, lovable, 3-sport student, doing very well in school. And we were blindsided, quite frankly. In '07, when he was away at college, Kevin received a devastating phone call saying that Dominique was not being himself. He was talking in a scary manner. Again, not being himself. Upon reaching Dominique and getting him to the hospital, he was evaluated and for the first time while in college, diagnosed with, had a dual diagnosis, bipolar schizophrenia. So that kind of threw everyone for a loop because, as I said, he was doing very well. So with that, over time, we continue to try to learn about mental illness because prior to that, we had no knowledge. And as with most people, until it touches you, it's not even on the radar, quite frankly. We are all going about our lives and didn't know anybody with mental illness, so it was a bit of a shock. But over time, Kevin took him to treatment. I was Googling things, sending it to Kevin. Here, check this out. We were doing what we could to help him get better. Over the course of a 3-year struggle, we continued to do that. And in 2007, we lost Dominique to suicide. I'm sorry, not 2010. I apologize. We lost him to suicide. So that was very tragic. Again, I had we had 2 minor children. In our efforts to help Dominique get better, we all moved together. And it was, I would do it all over again. So again, we lost them. And from that, we found ourselves wanting to help other families and prevent as many people as we can from going through such a tragedy. So we established the Dominique Fisher Memorial Foundation, and it's been successful. It's growing and doing quite well.
So tell us about the foundation, and recently you established or launched Everybody versus Stigma to support the foundation. So tell us the impotence for that.
So about the foundation, we've been going about 10 years, and our goal is we help in various ways. We support an organization who provides resources to families who have lost a child. That's one way that we give back. We also give scholarships to the high school that Dominique attended, Catholic Central. And we also support NAMI as well, the Dominique Fisher Memorial Foundation does. So we have 2 main fundraisers that we do each year, one being our golf event. We also have a dinner fundraiser each fall. So again, it's grown every year. We're growing exceeding our expectations. This year, however, as you mentioned, we did launch Everybody versus Stigma just in March. And the reason for that is that we believe that stigma is the leading barrier that prevents people from getting the help that they need. For example, people, I don't want my girlfriends to think I'm crazy, and people internalize and they don't want to be shut out or even ostracized. So a lot of people, unfortunately, go it alone and don't get the help that they need. And that just makes it worse.
So Sonia, how do you talk about it? I mean, and not about Dominique specifically, but about mental illness. You just mentioned something. I agree. We ask the question, how are you doing? It's a rhetorical. We don't really mean for people to dump on us and kind of tell us everything. But how do you authentically and genuinely invite the conversation in to actually understand how people are doing, especially those we love?
It can be about timing and definitely about the approach. Like Benita said, we have to be careful. We can't go too fast, too hard. You have to meet the person where they are. Maybe they just want to talk a little bit. They might not want to, as you say, dump everything right now. So you have to read the person, read the situation. But that is exactly why we came up with the everybody versus stigma. We want people to know that they're not alone, and it's okay to talk about it. Kevin will tell you that he's had long lines of people standing in the store. It starts with a person saying, "What is stigma?" And they can hear Kevin talking about it, and next thing you know, you have people saying, "Oh, yes, my brother. Oh, yeah, my mom dealt with that," and they want to know more. So that's why we created the brand, to let people know that you're not alone and recovery is possible, but we have to get the conversation started. And like Nike, just do it.
Yeah, I like that. So it's been 10 years. What would you say you've learned most that you are willing to share with our audience about the subject of mental illness and the signs and what you've seen?
Yeah, like you said, prior, like I said, prior to um, Dominique's diagnosis, we had zero knowledge. I did, at least. So now I know that 1 in 5 Americans deal with mental illness in one way or another, and that it does not discriminate. It can happen to any of us. It doesn't matter your age, your race, any of that. It can happen to any of us. And there's a wide range of mental illness. It can be mild depression, all the way up to severe diagnoses like bipolar and schizophrenia. I've also learned that there are far more resources available than I thought. You know, years ago, facilities were shut down and all of that, but there are a lot of resources. We just need to make them folks more knowledgeable about how to reach those resources. And the last thing I'll say that I've learned is that recovery is possible with the right support and resources and treatment. Recovery is possible. We've seen that. We've seen that with people that we work with, our neighbors. We've seen that with celebrities, athletes who are thriving and doing quite well. It's just about getting folks the help that they need.
I liked when Kevin said, when you guys were on back in January, and he was talking to a pastor, and the pastor was challenging him on just pray about it. You don't need the medication and all of that. And his comment was, okay, so if you have a heart attack right here in front of me, do you want me to just pray over you, or would you like me to call 911 and pray, give you your medicine? And I think the pastor said, I want you to call somebody that can help me. And that's what I hear you saying, Sonia. We gotta have the conversations so we can find the resources, so we can help. So tell me, how are you and Kevin doing today? It appears that through all of these efforts, you're definitely helping a lot of people and sharing your journey. How is he doing?
Kevin's doing well. I've realized that helping others has become his life's work, if you will. Since losing Dominique, he's working tirelessly to help others in so many different ways, and I am here to support him. I support him both personally and professionally. in the beginning, when we lost Dominique, I would say to him, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help you. I don't know. And he made it clear to me that all I need to do is be here, be myself. I don't need to do anything extreme, just be by his side. And it took me a minute to realize that that's all I need to do. I welcome him to talk, but I don't force him to try to talk about Dominique or how he's feeling or anything like that. Sometimes it might just be a nice long hug to let him know I'm here. And then when he's ready to talk, he comes around, but he's doing well. He's wearing many hats, more and more hats each day, but I believe it's therapeutic for him. And so I support him both personally and professionally. He's taking calls during off-peak hours and all that, but I don't bother him about it. I know he's doing what he loves. So we're both doing well. I take the necessary time for myself. So we're doing well.
Awesome. Well, Sonia, you are our sister of the month, and we're going to carry you over to June. So I want to see those beautiful t-shirts. Do we have a slide of those that we can share with our audience? If you can get those up, that would be amazing. I don't know if we have them available, but they are definitely on our website. If you go to thesistercovenant.com, you can see there are several versions of it, and they're absolutely beautiful. So you will be able to go directly from the Sister Covenant website to the website of Everybody versus Stigma and make your purchases and wear them proudly. Sonia, we thank you, and we will welcome you back to the Sister Covenant anytime you want to come and bless us. Again, tell Kevin we said hello from Florida. So with that, we're going to transition to NAMI of Jacksonville. I think you remember when we talked with Kevin and Sonia back in January, we had not identified an affiliate here in Florida. And since that time we have. So this morning, I am so excited to welcome to the Sister Covenant 3 women that serve on the board of NAMI Jacksonville. Would like to welcome Ebony to the Sister Covenant. Ebony Benjamin is on the NAMI board, and she is a program manager for psychosocial rehab and recovery services of North Florida and South Georgia and the Veterans Health System. I want to also welcome Velmisha. Velmisha Kaysen is also a NAMI board member. She is the Operations Support Specialist for Blue Cross Blue Shield First Coast Services Options, Inc. And lastly, Tony. Tony Callahan is also a NAMI board member, and she is the Physician and Provider Relations Director for Behavioral Health Division of Memorial Hospital. Welcome, welcome, ladies, to the Sister Covenant. Good morning. Great Sunday morning. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Well, let's get to it. We're not going to have enough time to talk about everything I want to talk about. I know Ebony's like, we are not going to have enough time. But listen, we're going to have after hour conversation. So hopefully you guys can stick around for that, because this is an important subject. We don't want to sell it short. We've heard from some powerful, powerful women this morning who've lost children to this disease. And Tony and Dalmisha, I know you're moms, and you're moms that are living this journey. So, but before we start talking about NAMI, Ebony, and I know you're going to tell us how that is a very, very valuable resource, I want to hear from Dalmisha and Tony. If you could tell us your journey and what got you here to NAMI, and we'll start with you, Tony.
Good morning. I'm Tony Callahan. And my oldest daughter, who's now 27, experienced a crisis when she was a sophomore in college at the University of West Florida in Pensacola, Florida. At the time, I wasn't working in behavioral health at all. And I was a divorced mom and no resources whatsoever about mental health or mental illness. I was clueless. And so when I got the phone call from her roommates about what my daughter was experiencing at the apartment, I was lost. I, again, didn't know what to do. They told me that she was in the mirror talking to herself and like cutting her hair off. And that was not like my daughter at all. So they took her to the emergency room in Pensacola. Meanwhile, it was 2:00 in the daytime here in Jacksonville. I was out working and all I could do is call my mom and ask for guidance. My mom was also clueless because, again, we had never dealt with mental illness before. And so I stopped working, went to pick up my mom, and immediately got on the road to Pensacola because I couldn't find any flights going directly from Jacksonville to Pensacola. And so it was a long journey. My mom did most of the driving, and Tony was busy on her iPad and also on her cell phone at the same time. I don't even know how I was doing both, but I was researching and looking. I was going through my network of connections through LinkedIn, trying to find help, trying to find out what do I do? What do I need to do? My brain was racing at like 200 miles per hour. So I was able to make some connections with a couple of the folks that are on my LinkedIn. And right now today, we still talk every now and then and, have discussions about mental illness. And just so happen they are located in other parts of the country. They're not even here locally in Florida. But they were a great resource, helped me to like understand what was going on, helped me to know that I wasn't the first parent that this happened to, that lots of parents go through it when their children are in college. I was also thinking during the trip to Pensacola to my daughter of signs that she may have experienced that maybe I as a parent ignored and, didn't think anything of it, that probably I should have paid more attention to and should have handled a different way. So when I got to Pensacola, day one, I wasn't able to go to the hospital. They have rules, and I had to wait on her to call myself or my mom first. And so, of course, we were like just itching, waiting on that phone call, and we got it the next morning. And we were able to go and see her that evening. And when I went to see her, I had never seen her this way before ever in my entire life. So I was, of course, fighting, trying to hold back tears and trying to figure out what was the right thing to say to her or, how to handle it. So luckily my mom was there with me, and she helped me and my daughter both through everything that she was experiencing and going through. And we talked. I ended up staying in Pensacola for like a week until she was released from the hospital, and we went to see her like every other day because, of course, they had different visiting options for us, and so that was how we handled it. But Tony did not stop researching and stop digging because this was also new to me. I wanted to know more and more and more about it. I wanted to know more about what our young adults experience in high school and in college, because I do have two younger daughters that I had to raise as well. But from that point on, I wanted to work in the behavioral health spectrum. And that was what led me to looking at opportunities in behavioral health in the Jacksonville community. And that was how I found my current position that I'm in with HCA, Hospital Corporation of America. And when I seen the position, I'm like, this is me. My name is on this. This is my job. And sure enough, I went through 5 different interviews with 5 different individuals over a 2-month period. And I was offered the position. And I enjoy being out in the community, meeting with physicians and providers, talking to them about behavioral health, talking to them about their current patients, which in that spectrum, that was how I met one of the board members of NAMI. And I shared with him my experience that I was dealing with my daughter. And he gave me some great tips on how to work with her at home, because she had, of course, moved back home. And we were going through it was not easy at all, because I could not relate to what she was going through. But he actually helped me to understand exactly what she was going through. And he walked me through how to talk to her, how to deal with it, how to react to what she was dealing with at home when she does different things. And it actually made the situation better. And from then on, he talked to me about coming on board with NAMI as a board member. And so I went through that process, and it's now 3 years later, and I'm still here as a board member of NAMI and giving back to my community, trying to connect more with African Americans in the Jacksonville community who have had similar experiences, or want to know more about mental illness and the resources that are out there, and sharing and caring for others. So that's how I ended up both in my position and also with NAMI.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for sharing. You've said a lot, and we're going to come back and unpack some of that. Velmisha, your journey a little tad bit different. Tell us about Grady and your story.
Well, Grady was an overachiever. He wanted to succeed in everything he did. And while he was in college, he became a father at a young age to 2 beautiful daughters. And eventually he started working, purchased a home. But I started seeing behaviors to me that were not normal. And I have had a previous family member that had exhibit these same behaviors. So I had already been exposed to mental illness. So I recognized what I was seeing early. Unfortunately, we still live in a society where African Americans still don't like to address mental illness. So it was addressed as maybe, we like to think somebody put something in their drink, or somebody put something in their recreational drug use, whatever they may do. But Grady he didn't drink and he didn't do drugs. So I knew his issues were not associated with those two things. I knew it had to be more of a chemical imbalance or something dealing with the brain. And he actually sought help. He was going through counseling. He was seeing therapists, but he would never medicate himself. And eventually the psychosis, manifested itself into him to where it just overtook his mind. He eventually moved to California. I probably had to go to California 10 times to see about him. And eventually I brought him back home June of 2015. He still never took medicine until October. He has been Baker-Ike numerous times. And unfortunately, with the Baker-Ike system, you go to see a doctor, and at the time you see a doctor, you're no longer in that psychotic or that state of psychosis. So you're not medicated at all. And somebody had suggested to me one time that I tape him in one of his outburst moments, and that's what I did. And eventually I got that tape to the doctor in October of 2020, and that's what's the first time he was medicated, because they gave me his proxy and I was able to have him put on medicine. Even today, my son still does not recognize paranoid schizophrenia. He doesn't talk about it, should I say. He goes to his psychiatrist, but he's not comfortable with addressing his psychosis to anyone because of the stigma that society have on people that suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. So he doesn't really address it. I always was open about my son's condition, so I'm always talking about it on social media. So Ms. Albany one time reached out to me and shared with me that there was a group in Army that has family support class. She said, that might help you, which I eventually attended, and it was an opening for me. It just opened my eyes to a lot, because what it showed me is I wasn't alone. Everybody told their story around the table. And I just was looking like, are y'all sure y'all not talking about my son? So that's how I became affiliated with NAMI, through the support group. And it was an awakening for me to help me talk to someone to let me know I wasn't alone. But the stigma itself in our community is just so unreal to our young people, or even our older people don't seek help. They feel that their minds are being attacked, because when Grady was first diagnosed in 2015, it was in California, San Diego, California, and he was Baker-Ike up there, and they gave him medicine at that point. And I never forget, he said, "Mama, I finally can see clear." It felt like something had been attacking my brain, attacking my mind. So at that point, he was okay. But once he got to a good place, he no longer wanted to take medicine. And that's one of the biggest problems as a parent that I have, that once he get on that good path, he doesn't want to take his medicine anymore. He doesn't feel like the medicine is warranted. But it's a journey. It's hard for me to see a child that was so up and doing so well to fall so far down. I won't say I don't cry at night. I still cry at night. It still hurts me tremendously to see my son and his struggles. But I know there's a testimony at the end of this journey that him and I are going to eventually have.
Delmisha, thank you. Thank you so much. Your son was a little bit older. You mentioned college days, but he was actually in his profession when he was diagnosed, an electrical engineer. Am I correct in that?
Yes, he was an electrical engineer. He was working, I don't really want to call the company's name, but he was doing well. He was in his profession, and he was doing quite well. He was a great father to his beautiful children. He has 3 girls, and they're all straight A students. And in my fear with him being an overachiever, that does not manifest itself into his children and those behaviors, because you could push yourself a little too far, and that those same behaviors don't manifest into his beautiful girls. But he was in his profession. He was doing well. He was being a typical 20-something-year-old. It's been 8 years now that we've been dealing with this. And like I said, 2020 was the first time he's taken medicine for it.
So, Ebony, I want to welcome you in a part of this conversation. So, Nami's been around for some 40 years, and you have affiliates all around the country. I know when Kevin and Sonia came on back in January, I mentioned that I was familiar with NAMI only because I had been exposed to it through Jack and Jill, which is where I met Benita. But in talking with people, it's a well-kept secret. And we've seen in the chat, just in this podcast, people are asking for resources. Tell us about NAMI and tell us how NAMI can be a resource for other families that are experiencing mental illness.
Right. Thank you so much for this opportunity to discuss NAMI. NAMI is NAMI is the acronym for National Alliance on Mental Illness. There is a national organization, Big NAMI, I call it, and then we have, probably over 1,000 affiliates. NAMI Jacksonville is our local affiliate. NAMI, the goal of NAMI is to provide education and advocacy for family members and for people living with mental illness. If you are a person living with mental illness, or if you are a family member of someone living with mental illness, NAMI can provide education, support, and advocacy. NAMI does not provide treatment. Our local affiliate is there. We do not provide treatment. And we shy away from referring people to actual providers in the community for treatment. What NAMI can provide is guidance on how to access mental health resources locally. We offer family support groups, which Thelmisha mentioned was her gateway into the NAMI organization and eventually the board. We provide peer-to-peer classes. Those are courses for people who are living with mental illness, providing them the opportunity to learn about mental illness. Family-to-family classes, teaching family members about mental illness, how it affects their loved ones, and how you can help. NAMI has a helpline, and I apologize for not knowing that number by heart. But it is on our website, namijacksonville.org. And I'm sorry, I got lost in my response, but if you call the helpline, number escapes me right now, someone will return your call and provide you with information on how to access mental health resources. At this time, we are working on providing awareness specifically in the African American community, working to offer support groups, family support groups, peer-to-peer classes, family-to-family classes, specifically in the African American community. And this platform is great in kind of giving us an introduction, because we faced some challenges because of stigma. We've been challenged with getting into the community. So we really, again, appreciate this opportunity to put NAMI on the forefront, NAMI Jacksonville.
So, Ebony, I know when we had the opportunity to talk a couple months ago, and these ladies and our previous guests have all had kind of a common theme. Their loved ones, their children, were young. They were in their 20s. And I think that has been said, that when our young people go out, they launch. We want them to launch. I am, as I said earlier, the mother of 2 young men, 21 and 23. One just graduated from college. So we want them to launch. We want them to go out into the world and blaze a trail and do their thing, do them, as we call it. But how do we know, like Benita said, how do we know that this is just a young adult thing or a teen thing, or this is a mental illness thing? How do we, in the middle of the night, like Tony got the call in the middle of the afternoon, and Thelmisha may have gotten inklings along the way, how do we know, and how do we reach NAMI or some resource in the middle, 2 a.m., when it's not a perfect situation? Where are the resources and how do we get to them, especially for our young adults that may not be accustomed? They have not built that muscle yet of dealing with the rent, someone that's negative on their jobs, not being getting the approval that they're used to getting in their loving, nurturing home, and what life presents on a daily basis. Is that the common thread of why we're seeing it so in the 20s or in that college years? And where do we go for the resources?
Well, research indicates that for people with psychotic disorders, such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorders, the majority of people have their initial break in their late teens to early 20s. That's like 18 to early 20s. And that's when they're faced with usually some type of stressor. College is a stressor. Joining the military is a stressor. Having your first baby can be a stressor. So it's usually a major life stressor, good or bad, that is what causes a psychotic break. That's indicated by research. You mentioned, what do you do at 2 o'clock in the morning when you get that call, like Tony talked about, saying, your child is behaving differently. Interestingly, people usually, in my experience, over the past 20 plus years, families' first interaction with the mental health system is when they are in crisis. Again, parents they don't know that their child is suffering from some type of mental health issue, and they only become aware when the child is in crisis, like Tony mentioned, when she was notified that her daughter was talking to herself in the mirror and cutting her hair. At that time, there needs to be crisis intervention, and there really is no time to look for resources. You're just trying to mitigate the crisis. It's really important that parents of children, teenagers, begin to have conversations with their children at an early age about feeling differently, thinking differently, being comfortable talking to parents or family members when they are having issues with feeling sad or hearing things that other people don't hear. We have to start those conversations early. NAMI has a program called Ending the Silence that we are introducing to Duval County school systems, to middle schoolers. And that program talks about identifying how you feel and learning how to talk about it, who to reach out to. So it's really important that parents have those conversations early with their kids, because when you're in crisis, it's hard to navigate the system when you're just trying to mitigate the crisis. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, and if you have someone who's having thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves, or someone who is not thinking clearly or saying odd things, I would suggest at that time that you call 911, especially if someone is threatening to hurt themselves, that you call 911. And once the crisis has been mitigated, that you talk to the service providers about services available in your area. And then that would be the time that you reach out to NAMI to say, hey, what's the next step? And NAMI can help you with those next steps.
Thank you, Ebony. Thelmisha and Tony, this has been a journey. It's not a destination. So I know that your young people have beautiful mothers. Both of you are beautiful mothers. How have you perhaps parented differently your other children? Tony, I know you have two beautiful daughters. Ebony's your oldest. I want to know how Ebony is doing today. But how have you parented different, or are you parenting different over the last few years, given your journey with Ebony?
With my situation, I have a daughter who's 25, Monisha. When Grady first started suffering or exhibiting behaviors, Monisha was in denial. To be honest with you, she probably still is in denial. But I tried to watch her behaviors closely. I also encouraged her to seek counseling so she can understand what her brother was going through. Unfortunately, she chose not to seek counseling. And once again, I had already been exposed to mental health, so I kind of understood what I was looking at. She still was in denial. She still chose not to seek help, but that also stopped me from being a stern parent, because I didn't want to push her too far to where she, start exhibiting the same behaviors. So it somewhat puts a little fear in you. At least it did for me. It put a little fear in me as a parent. I'm always addressing my grandkids' mother, letting her know, hey, watch the children. Make sure they're not stressing on themselves. Make sure you talking to them. Make sure, even talking to them about their father, because they had a very great relationship with their father. So it's important that they understand what's going on and that they're comfortable in speaking with someone if they feel like they're getting too excited, should I say.
Tony, you got two girls that are watching. How are you parenting today? You're on mute, Tony.
With my younger two, I am definitely parenting differently. I believe in therapy. Didn't start really believing in therapy until this happened with my daughter. And, I jumped on board with NAMI, jumped on board with my career in behavioral health. So with my now 17-year-old, well, she just turned 18. She has been going to therapy weekly for about the past 3 years. She started going originally because her grandmother died. And I didn't think of it like right offhand, but when we went to the doctor shortly after her grandmother's death, the physician asked her, was she stressing or having anxiety about something? And she was like, yes. And he was like, really? What is it? And she was like, I've been stressing, since my grandmother passed away. So immediately I enrolled her in with a therapist not far from where we live. And she's been going like bi-weekly. She started going weekly originally, but since then it's been bi-weekly. And she talked to her therapist about everything because, again, I don't want her experiencing depression and stress and anxiety. So I'm like, whatever it is, put it out there on the table with her, learn some ways to cope with it so that you can feel better, think better, do better. I also, with both of them, I hired tutors to help with schoolwork so that it's easier for them to learn the new things that they're learning so that they don't stress over that, like the math. Both of them were C students in math and both are now A students in math. And that started happening about 3 years ago. But math was a stressor for them, and it was making them feel bad about themselves, believe it or not. And since then, they look at math and be like, oh, I can do that, because they've had tutoring on the weekly basis for the past few years. So it has now came easier for them. So as a parent, that's what I've been doing, trying to think smarter and not harder, and not putting them through the stress of, like I did with my older daughter, figure out how to do it. And so just finding those new ways definitely help.
Ladies, we are out of time, and we knew we would be, but this isn't a one and done, because this conversation is relevant and it is important, and it is something we have to continue. I like what my dear friend Priscilla Howard has stated. I don't know if we can put that up on the screen, but this is a conversation that should be had by every parent at college orientation, at high school orientation, throughout our churches, in our various organizations, sororities, fraternities, and other organizations. We must lift up our young people, and we must have these very important and powerful conversations to eradicate the stigma against mental illness, and let people know that it is okay not to be okay, but we must get them resources so they can be the best version of themselves. Ladies, I know that there is a big walk coming up in the fall for NAMI Jacksonville, and just count on Sister Covenant Team 1. We are going to be there every step of the way. So we'll have you back then, and we'll talk more about the great work that NAMI is doing here in Florida, as well as Michigan and all of the affiliates all across the country. So if you need resources, they are there. And any of these guests today can be a part of your journey in mental health awareness. Ladies, thank you so much for being a part of the Sister Covenant this morning. And we're going to continue this conversation on the other side in our sister circle. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Sister Covenant, I don't apologize for us going over, and you know that, because this conversation is one not only did we need to have, we will have in the future. But join us on the other side if you can, but if not, as always, be bold, be brilliant, be brave and beautiful, my sisters, and be blessed. Be safe this holiday.